Hello and welcome to another episode of Outer Sounds. We are here today with composer and performer Jordan Dykstra, and we'll be chatting about his music and a new split LP, Out of Our Hands, with the late Alvin on Important Records. And that is our April selection for Outer Sounds. And we have the LP right here. That'll be going out to subscribers soon in beginning of April. So, but the record's actually already released. Is that right? Yeah. Cool. So, thanks for joining us, Jordan. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I think, I want to start with, talking about your music. I know a little bit about some of your solo work, but it'd be cool to, fill people in on what kind of music you make and maybe just your background, about as a composer, and you're a viola player, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And just kind of how you got started in music and, what you've been doing to get where you are now.
Yeah, sure. I come from a musical family, at least with my siblings. My mother's a trombonist by hobby, and my parents had my two brothers and one sister and I started on violin when we were very young.
Okay.
So we all were playing. It was a very musical house. We were practicing, and playing together, and so we started very young, like 4 or 5 years old.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And I remember, I was thinking about this other day. I have this memory of hearing my older brothers play pieces that I hadn't learned yet, harder pieces than I was able to play. And I sort of learned them by ear. And I remember a number of times when I would get to that level of work that I was learning, and I would I would have a lesson, and the violin teacher would have the music. She put the music in front of me, and I would just play what I remember hearing with my brother Josiah playing or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would get to the part where my brother hadn't learned yet, and I would improvise. and I remember a number of times the violin teacher would say, "That was interesting. That's not the notes on the page, but it sounded nice." And I just hated reading music, but I really loved playing and improvising and just going by ear. And that's, I think, the earliest memory I have of something along the lines of composition. And then I grew into a very typical trajectory of music school and stuff like that.
Right.
And realized much later on that I needed to do it a little bit different. I dropped out of school when I was in my 20s.
Okay.
And I didn't go back until I was 29.
Mm-hmm.
For undergrad, and I got a bachelor's degree from an art school, from Cal Arts.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And which is really atypical. Most art schools do not have music programs.
Okay.
And
were you in the Cal Arts music program?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've talked to a lot of people who been connected with that program. I interviewed Tashi Wada. I don't know if you guys were there around the same time, but yeah.
We were not, but I do know Tashi quite well. Yeah. He's doing a lot of interesting things.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah. But yeah, he was in that program before me, and he studied, I think, with Tenny.
Right.
I studied with Tenny's replacement, Wolfgang von Schneiditz.
Okay, yeah.
And that was really amazing. I studied with Pissarro as well, Michael Pissarro.
Yeah.
And yeah, that led me to learning a lot about post-Cajun music, and Alvin too. I learned a lot about Alvin during that time.
Hmm.
Um, and I had met Alvin before then, like in the mid 2010s. For the first time, I met him in Iceland at the Tectonics Music Festival,
Oh, okay. Hmm.
um, where he was like kind of the composer of um, the invited composer. They did a bunch
Yeah.
of his works, and yeah, I had a few conversations with him there. And I remember I was considering what I should do, if I should go back to school and all that. And I was like applying to a couple of schools. And then when I mentioned that I was thinking about Cal Arts, and his eyes just like lit up, and he's like, that's a good school.
Nice. You got the seal of approval.
Which actually meant a lot to me.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure.
I didn't know what the hell to do. And I was like, am I gonna go back to school when I'm 29?
He didn't want you to come to Wesleyan then.
Well, I I wasn't even really considering Wesleyan.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
seemed a little too out of my expectation, or a realm of expectation. But
right.
I did end up going to Wesleyan for grad school.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, yeah,
How I really got to know Alvin after college. Yeah, and it was really fun to see him again,
yeah.
and that's really where we got to spend a lot of time together.
That's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Were you, going along the whole way, were you focusing mostly on composition, or were you performing as much, focusing on being a performer as much, as well? Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. It's ebbed and flowed, but I've always been a performer composer,
Hmm.
someone who is writing music for myself in a way
Yeah,
that I play, and that I play the viola often when I was younger with electronics and things that are um, I wouldn't think about ever anyone else performing, you know.
right.
And then when I started going to school and started thinking more about other instruments and meeting a lot of other instrumentalists and really diving into choosing sounds that I don't play, or uh, writing things that I can't play, you know.
Yeah,
Then I started thinking more about what the compositional world could mean for me as someone who was interested in things that I couldn't do. So yeah, then it really blossomed, and started writing a lot of stuff, and just collaborating and playing and improvising and going from there. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, then you ended up at grad school at Wesleyan. That kind of was like leading into one of my other questions that I had.
Yeah.
Um, what were some of like the most important things you learned from Alvin, and do you have any good stories of like working with him and studying with him? I'm sure there's a lot, but
Yeah, I was thinking about this recently. I was trying to remember memories that I hadn't thought about for a while, so I have them um, forever. And I mean, it was really it was really nice to be able to hang out with him, and a lot of it was just having coffee in his living room and talking, you know,
yeah.
and having dinner and going out. He liked to go out for dinner with his wife
Hmm.
Wendy, and I and him, and um, it was just like um, very relaxing and calm, and but always very like, I mean, he had just like crazy stories about, you know, hanging out with Bob Ashley. He would
Yeah.
say, no one calls it Bob Ashley,
Bob. Yeah, call him Bob.
but that's what he called him, right? And
Hmm.
you know, Morton Feldman and John Cage, and yeah, I mean, he just had like such a crazy lived experience with like growing into the person and prolific composer that he is now, alongside these amazing people.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I don't know about specific stories. I I didn't really know much about Wesleyan when I went there. I knew they had a good gamelan program.
Right. Yeah.
I knew Alvin's piece for gamelan, and I was playing Balinese gamelan at Cal Arts
Yeah.
for a
CalArts
while.
has that too, right? Yeah.
They have really amazing Balinese and some Japanese too, but um and dance too, Balinese dance. Um and I knew Alvin taught there for a while and he was retired. And what else did I know about Wesleyan? Like, not a whole lot, honestly.
Yeah.
I knew it was like in the small city. I'm living in LA. I'm like, I don't know why I would go to a small city in Connecticut. This
Connecticut.
doesn't make
Yeah.
a lot of sense. I was really loving LA too. There's a lot of interesting things going on there. And but there was a good program, it was a good deal. And I wrote Alvin and I was like, Alvin, can I if I go to this program, would you be can I work with you? You know,
Yeah.
can we meet? I would love to like make it a regular thing. And he was just very open to that. And so that was when I decided I would go. I
Yeah.
was on the fence, to be honest. Yeah. And I was the last one to decide, yeah, I'll take this offer. And the Ron Quivolo is like, got me on the phone. He's like, everyone else is really into it. It doesn't sound like you're convinced. And I was like, well, I'll do it. I'll do it. And yeah, we just sort of like would meet once or twice a month, bi-weekly or something like that. And we just started to get to know each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, honestly, some of it was just like, let's go down in the basement. He had all of his old equipment down in the basement, right? And
Yeah.
let's look at some of this equipment that we still have access to that's custom, like hardware, like things that he had used for seminal recordings, right?
Yeah.
And performances, and a lot of them didn't work anymore, and it moved to digital versions. But like he didn't always like the digital versions,
Right. Yeah.
the limiters and like things like that. And so we would try to like get this stuff to work in new ways, right? And it was just like a lot of exploration, and it didn't always work, of course. It's just like there was I'm not an engineer in that way, and I don't solder, and some other people at the school would help him with that, and I would be like open to trying anything, but I wasn't making hardware.
Yeah.
It's not something I got into. And that's so it's so yeah, it was a lot of exploration and trying weird stuff, and trying to record airplanes and send, like he was working on a piece at the time, how to send his heartbeat to the moon, to bounce off the moon and like and come back down. And they ended up doing it in France, but it was extremely complicated international. These satellites, and like we're working on a like vessels number 20, right, for what was it, Documenta in Greece. We worked on this piece together for a long time, putting microphones into Greek vases and then playing it back so the feedback could be controlled, kind of like the teapot in his piece from they uses the Beatles. What's it called?
Nothing is real.
Nothing is real, exactly. And a similar vibe with vessels, like applying vessels, his piece vessels to that.
Yeah.
Just playing around, trying things and setting up microphones. And I would bring my microphones over a lot. Yeah. Anyway, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and we just have like picnics in the backyard, and his wife would a bottle of wine. It was great. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean that's the thing about his pieces, is that on the surface they're very minimal or seem kind of simple, but there's a lot of this, like you mentioned, there's this experimentation and technology that goes into creating a very specific concept or a sound or whatever.
Yes, and this performance practice that goes along with it,
Yeah.
like something like Charles Curtis has written and
Yeah.
spoken extensively, it's no joke. This
Yeah.
is a serious performance practice, like changing, doing bow changes so carefully that you don't break a waveform. It's on the note, right? Or stuff like
Yeah.
that. I mean, yeah, often his pieces, Alvin's pieces, they have this really wonderful gift of like, it's just a, once it starts, it goes until it's done. Like there's not going to be any surprises, and
Yeah.
that's an amazing opportunity as a listener to relax and really like dive
Right.
completely in. You know what's really going to happen. It's going to do some exploration, and you know, within the first 5 minutes, you're like, okay, this is nice. I could stay here for a while, and then he lets you stay there for a while,
Yeah.
and the smallest things start becoming these major events,
Right.
and you really break down. He would break down the sound, the psychoacoustical phenomena of sound, like to the like most elegant way possible, by but also adding a poetic element
Yeah, for sure.
conceptually. It's just, yeah, really beautiful works.
Yeah, like, you mentioned that like Lucier kind of exists in that sort of like post John Cage landscape. And I think he and a group of other composers, like Robert Ashley or, that whole school of people, they like successfully found a way to navigate, that world after Cage's like massive influence, or his imprint, on the world of composition and music. It was kind of like, I went to school for composition myself, and it's like, the thing that was kind of like the way that I said it, at least, was that now that we can do anything or everything, what do we do?
Right.
Like, what do we pick? What do we focus on? And, or what can I do? Or what do I want to do? So that's pretty daunting, to a lot of composers, especially people who are trying to explore and do different things and, do new sounds. So how do you think that's like a big part of, Lucier's legacy? Just finding a way to like navigate that world and coming up with such a singular, kind of practice that he had, that was so unique and special to him and his work.
100%. Yeah, for sure. He had a lot of help too, like making these electronic pieces, and the mechanics of all this stuff is pretty complicated at the time, and even now.
Yeah. It's Bob Bilecki, right? He's like
Bob
the guy.
Bilecki,
He's the guy behind the scenes of every like
for sure,
right?
Yeah.
Which is amazing. He gets no credit.
One time there was a pedal that Bob was like remaking for him, and I drove Alvin to pick it up from Bob, and we had lunch, and then where were we? We're in what's that city where in Connecticut in the South, where Charles Ives was from. Anyway, we're in Danbury, I think.
New Haven? No, not New Haven.
Danbury.
Oh, Danbury, yeah.
Yeah, and then we got this pedal, and it was just like, that guy that's kind of like the other half of Alvin.
Yeah, totally.
That's the technical half, not necessarily the poetic half, but like the technical half, which is like I was trying to say, like half of his works, right?
Yeah.
But Alvin just kept going. He just kept making more and more stuff, and like in the 70s and 80s, he was well known in small circles, but people didn't play his music much until the 90s and 2000s, and Alvin was so shocked. He would bring this up a lot. He just can't believe that people are interested now.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, because he remembers, being called a minimalist, and then Philip Glass was a minimalist, and Philip Glass became really famous, and Alvin was like, well, I guess I'm not going to be famous now. And then, and he just kept doing it, though. He was like, teaching it, his 109 class at Wesleyan, and
Yeah.
just kept like writing about it and just doing his thing. And like
Yeah.
now he has this amazing body. It's really incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. It's such an incredible body of work, and composing incredible pieces up until he passed away, just that's like so inspiring, that just continuously, you know, making
Yeah.
serious great work,
He always had more pieces running in the back of his mind than I
I'm
did
sure.
one night than I did an entire year. Even at 88 and 90, like he would wake up in the middle of the night, he'd tell me and just have to like work something out because he had just thought of some idea. It's just like I
Yeah,
feel so lazy compared to this
I know,
90-year
me
old
too.
guy.
Like, geez, that's so inspiring. That leads me to, the LP Out of Our Hands. How did this whole project come together, and how did you guys approach it?
Yeah, so I began working with this ensemble, Ordinary Affects, that recorded this LP.
Mhm.
And I was trying to remember 2016 or 17, and befriended everyone in the group. And I was living with one of the members in Connecticut, and we were started to play a lot together. And we're all sort of in this New England area, not all in Connecticut, but and Ordinary Effects got commissions from Antoine Boiger, Pissarro, Everme Hubin, even others that are just escaping my mind. But yeah, the so I thought to ask Alvin if he would also like to write a piece for us. And he
Mhm.
loves strings and he likes percussion, and we're two vibraphone and a string trio,
Yeah.
and play viola in the group. And he was just very ecstatic to write something, especially for a group that was pretty local and
Right.
where we could rehearse together. And got this small grant from the city to put on this concert, and this other one for this record. And yeah, it just took a really long time for it to come to fruition. But yeah, we started this process back in 2018, I believe.
Okay.
And he had this idea to work on a piece, Corner Church and High, which is the location where he recorded I'm Sitting in a Room. That Wesleyan gave him a house, I think, to live at
Okay.
while he was teaching at the beginning. And that's the cross street, right?
Mhm.
He started memorializing these places that were really important to him with different pieces and titles and that kind of thing. But Corner Church and High, if I remember right, has this very kind of simple, slow moving glissandi in the strings that goes between a minor third up and down.
Mhm.
And like on either end are these pulsating vibraphone notes.
Mhm.
You have these very slow, beautiful beating patterns going on. It's basically just a 20-minute gliss, right?
Right.
Um, it's very hypnotic,
That's a
psychedelic.
beautiful
I
piece. I
guess.
love it.
Yeah. And then I wrote a piece for the same ensemble, our ensemble, using a similar instrumentation, although I had the percussion add some other colors in there too.
Yeah.
But that's where it all originated.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. The pieces are very complementary, and they just work. It works beautifully, actually, as a record, as an LP. Usually, I've always liked to have Alvin's music on CD. I mean, despite despite having some of the
Yeah.
LPs too, obviously. But this works so well on a record because it's like two sidelong pieces, and you can really just sit down with it. I don't know how many times I've listened to this record since I got it. I just keep wanting to like dive back in and listen to it again, and the pieces really like work together as well, probably because of the similar instrumentation, but just the
Yeah.
compositional approaches too work well together.
And the recording, I think the recordings are very, very professional and beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're really well done. You might not be the right person to ask about this, but what do you see like what's going on with Alvin's like estate, and will we see, will you be involved with more recordings or releases, or do you know anything kind of along those lines?
Yeah, I'm I've been in touch with some of the people that are helping with that. It's not secret knowledge that his archive will go to the New York Public Library.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, and
makes sense.
that's a big process.
Yeah,
There's a lot of stuff.
yeah, I bet, man.
Yeah, and there's a lot going on after his passing. And I think you'll hear a lot more. There's a lot of performances planned all around the world, even, and I'm going to be a part of one in Lucier like festival that I don't think it's been announced, but it'll be in DC
Oh, cool.
summer or late spring. There's a couple in New York happening soon, but yeah, there's just like, I think people are really excited to hear it again, and it just shows you how much the players enjoy playing it and the audience likes hearing it, because it's
Yeah.
yeah. And ever present, I see you have this box set that they put
Oh yeah, the
champions of his music, right?
such a great, yeah. I talked to, I was gonna say, I talked to Oren Mbarchi in one of my previous interviews, and he's just like one of my favorite guys. He's such a good guy, and
yeah,
a big champion of Alvin's music and lots of other great stuff too, obviously.
I got to play with Oren and the group in Tennessee a couple of years ago at the Big Ears.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's really amazing, and just it was just so much fun. Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like there's plenty of outlets for Alvin's recordings or music or whatever, if things get performed and recorded. So that's good, always good news. I know Important Records has done a bunch of stuff too, and Black Truffle. So what are you working on yourself, solo music, and what's coming up next for you?
I have this small label that I put out, limited runs of CDs and sometimes scores and things like that. I've been doing a couple of projects with other people, and trying to help, my friends and acquaintances and make projects that are outside of my hands and myself. It's been working on a number of other people's projects, which I'm very happy to do. I have a string quintet and percussion piece coming up for a performance that I've been working on with the SCM ensemble. But I'm also doing some work with like media scoring work that
I noticed you I was checking out some of your music online, and I noticed you've done some film scoring and stuff like that. How did you get involved with that?
It's something that I was always interested in, even when I was a teenager. I thought that music supervision would be really fun. To license music and get familiar sounds placed in new ways. Turns out it's not very fun for me.
Oh, really?
It's mostly just a ton of emails and waiting. But composing is much more my speed, and I've gotten a chance to work on some nice projects, and there's a couple exciting ones on the way. But I've been doing it a lot more since the last 4 or 5 years. Working on we just finished really today a score for a Frontline documentary. It's so crazy, these like TV shows, sometimes they go right up until this is airing on Tuesday.
Oh wow. And they're gonna just cut the music right in. And
they have to submit the everything by the end of today. And
That's
so
amazing.
yeah, it's just like usually you have 6 to 8 weeks to work on music, and this is about 2 weeks. Oh,
Just get the editor, just toss that sound file right in there and then send it off.
man, you'd be surprised.
Yeah, that's
Um,
wild.
but yeah, and I really do like working on documentaries that are interesting. I don't really
Yeah.
love all documentaries, although it's probably my favorite genre of film, and art docs. But I really do like working on some docs that have something to say and have a, like are told in an interesting way.
Yeah.
And this one's about the big lie, and I was really
Oh, okay.
happy to be able to work with this reporter AC Thompson on this.
Yeah.
Good guy.
Yeah,
Um,
that's great. That seems like a nice, just like an alternate creative reality that, or creative kind of situation that might be very different from obviously from composing for concert or recording or
yeah,
something. It puts you in different situations that you might do some things that you might not ever do, just,
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm just happy to work at paying the bills with music if I
yeah, that
can.
too. I mean, that's a big part of it, right?
That's really hard to do,
Yeah,
and
so hard.
I've spent my whole life trying to figure out how to hustle in all these various ways to piece together an income, and
Yeah.
it's tough, man. Yeah, but there's money in composing for media, and a lot more than experimental concert music.
Oh,
I'll
of
tell you
course.
that.
Yeah.
But I still very much love concert music for
Yeah.
the stage, right? And that'll always be a big part of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Before we wrap up, it was funny. I was like searching my emails, like for an email, trying to find like the first email you sent me or something. And I noticed like I had like a really old email from like 2006 or something that you had commented on. I ran that blog called Crystal Vibrations. Do you remember
You
that?
ran that?
Yeah, that was my blog. And
Oh
you had made a
wow.
comment on there, and I still had like the old email in my inbox or something, and it was about like a Stephen Halpern record or something like that. So I was like, I didn't think that we had met or
Wow.
knew each other, before, but that it was funny to see that kind of pop up. I was like, wow, it was a long time ago.
Man, that's hilarious. I
Yeah.
mean, your name did sound very familiar. You have a pretty familiar sounding name. um, but damn, I haven't thought about crystal vibrations in a hot minute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was not like tooting my own horn, but I was kind of ahead of my time there for a bit.
I think I had it bookmarked, man. It was
Yeah,
great.
yeah, it was super fun. That was like a period of time when um, I was like touring and traveling a lot and playing shows all over the place, but I would go like
Yeah.
dig through record stores wherever I was and just buy tons of cheap like new age stuff. And
Yeah.
um, a lot of it was so bad, but I kind of like found these little gems, hidden away
I,
in there. So that was fun.
you found a lot of gems, man.
Yeah.
I think that's where I first heard of Kay Gardner,
Could
her
be, yeah.
record. And
Mhm.
and then I got all of her records and her book and everything. And I just
Yeah.
fell in love with new age music, and like the culture of new age.
Mhm.
That was back then. Yeah, it was like 2006, 2007 when I
Yeah,
was
somewhere in there.
in Oregon actually at the time. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah.
Cool. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. And Jordan, it was great talking to you. I appreciate you coming on and chatting with me today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Keep in touch and take care.
Okay, you too.
Bye bye.